As a child, they told you things like, don't swallow gum, it stays in your stomach for 7 years. Or that we only use 10% of our brain, and the popular, don't touch the little bird because its mother will abandon it. Well, I hate for us to be the ones to tell you, but they lied to you all this time. So today we're going to bust 10 myths you thought were true. And yes, some of them are going to hurt more than trying to understand Interstellar without Google on the side. Number 1. We use only 10% of our brain. Most people say we only use 10% of our brain. Like if you had a Ferrari and used it only to listen to the radio. In fact, there are many theories as to where this myth originates, but one likely root comes from misinterpretations of studies from the late 19th and early 20th centuries, where some neurologists claimed they did not know the function of much of the brain. It was also spread by motivational talks along the lines of, imagine what you could achieve if you used 100%. So, if it's false, why do we believe it? A short answer is because it sounds cool. It makes us feel like we're potentially geniuses. We're just not using all the power. We assume it's a good excuse when you get bad grades. The reality is that MRI studies have shown that virtually all areas of the brain are activated at different times of the day, even when you're watching memes or doing the dishes. In other words, we don't use 100% all the time, but we do use it all. So, no, you don't have superpowers like Lucy, although it wouldn't hurt to change your hairstyle for free. Number 2, if you touch a bird, its mother will abandon it. Don't touch it! Oops, you already touched it! Now the mother is going to abandon it because of the human smell. Sound familiar? This myth stems more from the protective instinct of humans than from science. It became popular as a way to warn children not to handle hatchlings that have fallen from their nest. It also comes from the misconception that birds have a hypersensitive sense of smell. Spoiler, this is not the case in most species. It may sound logical, since you're probably thinking animals smell different, so they reject the foreign. Also, human moms are so sensitive that we project that same instinct to all species. The reality is that most birds have a weak sense of smell, and they are not going to reject their young just because you touch them. What's more, if the chick is on the ground, chances are that the mother is nearby watching and waiting for you to move away to continue caring for it. That said, the ideal is still not to touch it unless it is in real danger. But if you have already done so, don't worry, you haven't signed its abandonment sentence. So you can sleep easy knowing that in your childhood, you did not destroy a family of sparrows. Number 3, bats are blind. We've always heard or seen the phrase blind as a bat. And it turns out that the bat sees better than you do with a hangover. This myth comes from bats' exaggerated use of echolocation. Since they use sounds to orient themselves in the dark, many assumed it was because they couldn't see anything. Mostly we believe this as the phrase became popular and because seeing a bat flying at night gives the feeling that it is going blind. But actually, no, bats can not only see, but some species can even distinguish colors. In addition, they have echolocation, which makes them even more accurate in detecting their environment. Number 4, chameleons change color to camouflage themselves. We've all seen documentaries where the chameleon becomes invisible among the leaves. But it's not quite like that. We assume it since their ability to change color is curious, but it's really to hide from their surroundings. And yes, sometimes it does, but it's not its main function. Chameleons change color for social reasons, getting angry, courting. For temperature, they turn up the color if they are cold, and for emotions. Camouflage is a side effect, not the main purpose. Number 5, swallowing gum stays in your stomach for 7 years. Don't swallow the gum. It will stay stuck in your stomach for years, your aunt would say in fear. This is a normal fear. It comes from the parents' concern that children should not swallow things. And chewing gum, not being easily digested, became public enemy number 1 before Spider-Man. So it was easy for us to believe, since it has half logic. The body can't digest chewing gum well, it's true. But your digestive system is not a hotel. Chewing gum goes through the stomach, the intestines, and eventually, Well, it comes out where we all know it does. Unless you eat half a pack of gum in one sitting, there's no real risk. Number 6. Vikings wore helmets with horns. Whenever someone dresses up as a Viking for Halloween or Carnival, they show up with a helmet full of horns, as if they were a cross between a warrior and a buffalo. This myth was born in the 19th century thanks to opera productions. Yes, opera, where costume designers wanted the Vikings to look more barbaric and exotic. It can also be seen in movies like How to Train Your Dragon, where characters wore helmets with huge horns. Nowadays, we already see it as iconic of the Vikings. It appears in cartoons, movies, costumes, commercials, even in emojis. The horned helmet is unofficial Viking branding, and to make it more confusing, yes, Vikings used horns, but for drinking. Horns for mead or craft beer have been found in Viking graves because they were buried with their belongings. So it's possible that centuries later someone saw a horn in a grave and thought, it sure went in the helmet? Spoiler, no, it was on the table. Number 7, sugar makes children hyperactive. There's a phrase that every adult has said at least once. Don't give the child more sugar or he'll go crazy. It sounds reasonable, but it's also completely false. The belief that sugar causes hyperactivity in children has been repeated so often that it seems like scientific fact, when in fact it is more myth than monster under the bed. The idea was popularized in the 1970s thanks to misinterpreted studies and has lived happily ever since on children's birthdays. What actually happens is that the kids are surrounded by balloons, music, presents, and cake. How can they not be jumping around? Multiple studies have shown that sugar has no significant impact on hyperactivity. What it does influence is expectation. If an adult thinks the child is going to go crazy for the candy, they're going to see craziness even in a yawn. So no, sugar does not turn children into gremlins. They already come from the factory with that mode activated. Number 8, water conducts electricity. Another electrical survival myth, water conducts electricity. And there you are, dodging puddles like they were death traps in Saw. The funny thing is that the statement is true. Half true. Pure, distilled water under laboratory conditions does not conduct electricity. The problem is that ordinary water, the water in your pipe, the rain, the swimming pool, contains minerals, salts, and particles that do make it conductive. In other words, it's not the water, it's the junk in it. As if you were to say that a plain bread is fattening because you spread it with Nutella. So even if the phrase is not scientifically accurate, the advice not to mix electricity with water is still valid, especially if you appreciate your eyebrows. Number 9, humans have only 5 senses. We've always been told that humans only have 5 senses. And sure, it sounds logical, easy to remember, and it even rhymes well, but it turns out that our bodies are much more complex than that. We were taught in school that our senses were sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell, and that's it. But that's just the light version of the human body. In reality, we have many more. For example, proprioception, that 6th sense that tells you where your arm is without looking at it. Balance, thanks to sensors in your inner ear. Perception of temperature, pain, hunger, and others that your elementary school teachers simply decided to ignore for simplicity's sake. So, yes, if you ever felt you had a 6th sense, I'll inform you that you probably had about 14. Number 10, vaccines cause autism, and we close with one of the most dangerous myths of all. Vaccines cause autism. This lie began in 1998 with a fraudulent study published by Andrew Wakefield, a doctor who manipulated data, had hidden economic interests, and was discredited by the entire scientific community. Since then, numerous large-scale, serious studies have shown that there is no link between vaccines and autism. None. Zero. But the fear had already been sown, and the myth spread faster than the neighbor's Wi-Fi. Vaccines are one of the safest and most effective tools of modern medicine, have saved millions of lives, and remain essential to public health. So get vaccinated with pride, and if you're still worried about the chip, don't worry. The only tracking they have is the one you already do on your own with your cell phone. And there you have it. 10 myths that you probably believe to be true, and that turned out to be pure smoke. Which one surprised you the most? Do you still find it hard to let go of any of them? Leave it in the comments. You're certainly not alone. If you like this journey through the truth disguised as a lie, don't forget to subscribe. Leave your like and share this video with that friend who still believes that we only use 10% of our brain. We are Whispers of Time, and we'll see you in the next video with more facts that, yes, will probably make you uncomfortable too, because here, questioning what you believed is part of the fun.